Hello everybody, Kane here today with another little Jurassic World Reborn build, and actually I shouldn't say little, this build is absolutely ginormous, because today I decided to do the first of the sauropod builds, and of course, you know, I could have started with something reasonable, an Apatosaurus, a Brachiosaurus, you know, something like that. What did I go for? Dreadnoughtus, because that was requested, and I don't know, I thought it looked cool, and I guess in my mind, the Dreadnoughtus really wasn't that bad of a... or it wasn't really that much different than building for the Brachiosaurus, because they're about the same size in terms of, like, their bodies. They're about their shoulder height is similar, their shoulder to tail length is similar, so they're actually a pretty similarly sized creature, until, of course, you get to their necks, in which case the Dreadnoughtus is, like, twice the size. It's an insanely big animal, vertically, just not horizontally. So yeah, I kind of realized that, and I was like, you know what? Why not do Dreadnoughtus? I feel like that's such a cool thing to do, and like people had brought up in the comments of some of the past videos, it's something you don't really see usually with dinosaur mods. Usually you see a Brachiosaurus or an Apatosaurus because those are both pretty common, pretty popular. But Dreadnoughtus, bit different, bit cooler. So yeah, I decided to go with that, and I'm pretty happy with how this build turns out. For the size of this exhibit, it's a fairly quick build. I say fairly quick, I mean it was still like an hour or so of building, but it felt like it was a lot faster than the like the Stegosaurs or any of the others. And I think that's mostly due to the fact that I kind of realized I didn't need to put tons and tons of detail into this build. This wasn't a build where we were going to be doing, you know, tons of trees and all that kind of stuff. I do throw probably more trees than I should have into this build, and that's more just out of habit. I love trees in exhibits. I think it makes them look really cool. It adds a vertical element to a lot of builds, which is always good, so it kind of breaks up the sight line and makes it a bit more interesting. But I did realize, though, at the end of the day, these are massive sauropods, which means they need space to move in. Which means, although it does look really cool having them in a redwood forest, which is again what we've done, it's probably the case that if they've been living here for a while, they will have knocked over any redwoods or any trees that are in their way. You know, they're not gonna keep it a super dense forest for very long. They're gonna probably knock over a lot of trees or eat most of the tree and then knock it over kind of thing. So, yeah, we just don't super detail it. But yeah, you can see it's a fairly big, it's a lot bigger than I think it looks in the time lapse. It is probably about the size of 2 Stegosaur exhibits, I would wager. Maybe about 1.5 times the size of the Carnotaurus, something like that. I did try out a new fence design with this. Well, I say new. It's basically just, again, if you guys have seen my Dino series before, it's a variant of my heavier herbivore fence, which in that series I believe is just a log with some stone slabs and cobblestone walls. I switched it out for andesite and just made them these really big, thick pillars, so that way, well, you know, hopefully the dinosaurs can't break them down. Because, yeah. Now you might be like, okay, and why is this fence so short? You know, it should be a lot taller for the dinosaur. Well, my thinking on this was, well, realistically, you can't build a fence tall enough to keep it from reaching its neck over and down, you know, past the barrier. So realistically, all the fence needs to do is, well, keep the dinosaur from walking out of the area. So yeah, that's kind of what I ended up doing here. Honestly, I think the fence was the majority of the build time for this. It just took a while to get the fence going. I'm sure I could have used World Edit copy and paste, but I always find copy pasting fences to be a bit off because it's not always exact, and sometimes you kind of want it to do things and then you have to build a whole bunch of templates anyway, so I just prefer to do them by hand, even though it takes a bit more time, I guess. So one thing you're gonna notice you don't see me doing in the time lapse is the viewing area, and that's because, well, I didn't really know what I wanted to do with it. I'm still not sure what I want to do with it. I do build something for the, in the final build there is a bit of a, well, viewing area. I don't know, it's hard to make a viewing area for something like this, because, you know, how do you make a proper viewing area for dinosaurs this big? I am considering bringing in some sort of viewing tower like we have on the Dinos world, but we'll see if I want to do that in the end. Again, if I feel like it, I'll add it in later. I don't really feel like, you know, building tons of extra stuff right now. Mostly because I've got to finish off a bunch of essays for universities, so fun. But yeah, overall, I think this turns out really cool. I like the fences. I think they're the right kind of security look. They look heavy duty, but not like carnivore heavy duty. They're just more, hey, this is a big fence. This is here to keep something that will literally just knock over massive trees from escaping. Not, oh, this is a fence to keep out something that'll rip your face off. Anyway, oh, you can see it. I tried to build one of the GWE sliding gate things. It's kind of hard to build it in Minecraft, of course, but I think it looks all right. Basically, the only reason that exists is because I messed up in setting up the exhibit. So I just decided, hey, I'll fix it that way, and then we've got a cool little thing as well. Why not? Yeah, you'll also notice it's a much flatter exhibit again than most of the stuff we've been building lately, and that is also due just to the fact of, well, it didn't need to be this super, hilly exhibit, and again, probably wouldn't be a super hilly exhibit because it's giant sauropods. These things aren't climbing mountains. Oh man, it's kind of funny. That looks like some World War II camouflage there, I guess. But anyway, the ground texture, so I tried something in Wildlife Park that I'm actually going to try again more often, I think, in these series of builds, and that is doing all the bone mealing and the plants before I switch over to the ground texture, because I've realized if I do that first, we get a lot more grasses and ferns and stuff inside the exhibit, whereas if I don't do that, it's a bit more sparse and doesn't look quite as good. So, I mean, you'll see me do that in this build a little bit. We bring in a lot of the same rock features and stuff. We have the Achillibator, I don't remember how to say it, exhibit, and the Stegosaurus exhibit, just because it kind of ties all of them together, makes them all look a bit more cohesive and like they're all part of the same area. Threw in a couple bushes. Again, this was an exhibit I really had to restrain myself from going all out on the decoration, because I could have put bushes everywhere and tons of plants, and here's my favorite part of the time-lapse, which is usually just throwing in the trees, because I love watching them. It's so cool to watch the trees grow. But yeah, I had to try and restrain myself from putting too many plants in, because again, massive sauropods, they're gonna need a lot of space to move around. And yes, I know this exhibit realistically should be like 22 times the size of this one, but at the end of the day, I don't really want to spend that much time just building fences and placing trees. So yeah, I don't think there's too much else to say. I think I'll probably just let the rest of the time-lapse roll on, just a bit more foliage placing, and I'll catch back up with you guys to show you the final build. All right, everybody, here we are with the exhibit tour. Oh wow, that is a lot of shade from those trees. Yeah, this is our Dreadnoughtus enclosure. Now, you might be like, oh, it's not super hyper detailed like usual. Well, of course it's not, because have you seen the size of these things? They're massive. They're like absolutely ginormous, which is why I tried to cut down on the trees. I still think I put probably way too many trees in here, unfortunately, even though, I don't know, I love the idea of big redwood forests full of giant sauropods like this. I think it's just a really, really cool idea. So you guys will notice I didn't build this thing in the time lapse, and in fact I'm still not necessarily sure if it's going to stay like this. Part of me is thinking we may extend the pathway out a bit more and make a second floor. The thing is, to really make a viewing platform where you can see their heads, it's got to be all the way up. You're basically at redwood height, so I'm thinking we might do something cool at some point, but not for now. For now, I feel like this is a good enough viewing area. If you get right up to the glass, you can pretty easily see them. So yeah, pretty cool overall, I think. Connect the pathways up, and I think, yeah, well, we'll need to throw some redwoods in there, but I think this is all starting to tie together quite well. We've got a nice, cool little separation of areas, so we've got this kind of more spruce redwood type forest being started over at the Carnotaurs, brought along the Achillibator? I don't know. People kept telling me how to just say it, but I completely forgot. Achillibator, Bator, I don't know. Anyway. Stegos, and then the Dreadnoughtus. So we've got a pretty cool little area getting set up here. I see more baby dinosaurs that have somehow ended up in a really weird area, so that's fun. But yeah, I really like the overall look of this. I think it turned out pretty cool. I did try out something you guys will have seen that I tried to do on the Wildlife Park series that didn't work so well, but that was bone milling the ground first and then switching it over to the other terrain type, which I think is going to be my standard from now on, just because it works a lot better and I really get a bit more, well, ground cover down without having to place it all manually. And with an exhibit this size, placing it manually was not something I was really interested in doing. Also, oh, I forgot to add in the electrical nodes there, but I really like this fence. I think it looks pretty good for what it's meant to be holding. Yeah, it looks like it would hold something. At least I think it looks like it'll hold something this big in, just because it's a fair bit taller than the body of the dinosaur, which is really what you're trying to keep inside the enclosure. I mean, you can't really build a fence big enough to keep its like neck in. So yeah. Anyway, that is all I have for today. So I hope you guys enjoy this build. And yeah, the next one we build, I'm not really sure yet. Part of me really wants to return to this, so maybe we'll come back to that, get the Crassigyrinus and Diplocalus in, and maybe do the Mawsonia as well. So that could be fun. And yeah, from there we'll see what other dinosaurs to do. So if you have a dinosaur you want to see, leave it in the comments down below. And until next time, guys, see ya.